Why did you bring me here?
I am not the cause. I am the effect.
I don't want to hurt you.
That opening is a summary of your first few moments in the world of Solar Ash, a beautiful game with smooth and addicting gameplay, a compelling story, and an appropriate chilling soundtrack to enhance its atmosphere. Ever since the reveal for this game in 2019, I was hooked. It had me and many others wanting to know more and eventually experience the new journey that Heartmachine was building. Then, on December 9th, 2021, the world took the plunge. But it wasn't until January 2022 was I able to skate my way into this game's world and finally see what Heartmachine has been cooking up. I'm really excited to finally start talking about this game, so let's go ahead and dive right on in to Solar Ash. Solar Ash is the second game developed by Heartmachine, a beloved developer in the gaming community who are known for developing the critically acclaimed Hyperlight Drifter. Ask anyone who plays video games, and I guarantee that over half of them will know what Hyperlight Drifter is. Hey you!
Hey,
You play video games?
Some.
Yeah,
some games.
Yeah, you like games. Okay. So you ever heard of this game called Hyperlight Drifter?
I haven't. I'm sorry.
You sure?
Yeah, not ringing any bells. Sorry. What is this for?
Hyperlight Drifter, as stated before, was the first game Heartmachine had developed, and with Solar Ash releasing, they've added another game to their catalog. The biggest thing for me is their jump from 2D pixel art to full 3D. It's not an easy jump and one that takes some developers a long time to get right and ready, so I commend developers who are able to dabble in both spectrums of video game development. Let's take a quick look at another studio who also made that jump from 2D to 3D successfully, Hopoo Games, in their flagship title, Risk of Rain. I know this video is about me playing Solar Ash, so I'll make this quick. Start the timer. I'm gonna speedrun this. Hopoo Games had originally released Risk of Rain way back in 2013 as a 2D pixel art based roguelite game. Choose a character, jump in, get random items with scaling enemy difficulties, and, try to make your way to the game's ending. Each location chock full of secrets, challenges, unlockables, and even a unique boss. This game was only really developed by 2 individuals spearheading the whole project. It received updates up until its final version in 2015. From there, they experimented with another 2D version, then a 2.5 version, and then eventually jumped into fully being 3D. Risk of Rain 2 was announced to be happening in 2017 and released into early access in 2019 on Steam, which left early access in 2020 and is still receiving updates and content today. Taking a game that looks like this and moving it to this ain't easy. And it's fucking amazing that they were able to move this game across dimensions. So overall, development for Risk of Rain 2 took about 5 to 6 years from concepting and prototyping to leaving early access. Time! That's gotta be a world record. Also, fun fact, apparently the idea for a sequel came from the developers seeing fan art of one of the game's characters wearing the items they had picked up. Something that wasn't in the original, and wanted to see about making that possible in a sequel. It's not too relevant here, I just thought that was cool. Going back to Solar Ash, it was a completely new venture for Heartmachine. Hyperlight Drifter released in 2016, and with Solar Ash being officially announced in 2019, it's safe to say they may have started development for this game either in 2017 or 2018, and maybe even concepting for the game as early as 2015 or early 2016. The only proof I have of this is this tweet from Alex Preston, the founder of Heartmachine, in 2021, which showcased some sick concept art of the main character. Alongside the concept art, he stated that he had done this all the way back in 2015, meaning that the game, including early concepting and brainstorming, most likely took about 6 to 7 years to develop from start to finish. Again, most of this is speculation on my part, as I personally don't have much information and haven't been able to find much regarding the earliest stages of development for the game. I have, however, found an interview from GameIndustry.biz where Preston talks about the difficulties and adjustments the team faced during development. In the interview, Alex Preston states that they not only scaled up their team from 5 to 25, but had to learn an entirely new game engine, which was the Unreal Engine, and other programs for the game's development as well. One program of note is Houdini, which is a procedural generation program, which seemed to give them a bit of extra difficulty, but once they got it working, they got it working. I'm gonna move on now, but I generally suggest giving this article a full read if you have some time. I put the link in the description so you can find it there. I just kinda wanna get things moving along since we have a lot to talk about. Solar Ash is a movement-based 3D platformer that absolutely feels great to control. With your movement toolkit of skating, boosting, time slipping, double jumping, and rail grinding, you'll be able to blow through landscapes and locations, all set up in a way for you to keep the momentum going. And I'm not a speedrunner. Well, I don't usually speedrun, but with how great the movement felt here, I found myself trying to complete different sections as fast as I could, as it just felt so satisfying to do. Besides just using these tools for traversing through the game, the player puts their skills to the test by being tasked to eliminate anomalies from each location to help bring functionality back to your AI companion Sid. These anomalies act like time trials. Hit each checkpoint to extend the timer until you complete it by stabbing into the eye of the anomaly. After getting rid of each one in the area, a remnant is awoken, which are essentially the bosses of each area. There are a total of about 6 unique locations and 6 unique bosses. Technically 7, depending on certain circumstances I'll touch on later. Each boss is fairly unique in their design, with their own movement patterns, time trial scaling patterns, and their own attack patterns as well. The first boss doesn't actually attempt to attack you, as it's just designed to be an introduction to the game style of boss fights, so it gets a pass. These massive creatures follow the same principle as the anomalies, which the player must scale the remnant, hitting each checkpoint along the way, to reach the weak spot on the creature. This is done 3 times before it's defeated, with the player being shaken off with each successful hit. The anomalies and the bosses are a lot of fun to complete, as it ties back to how they've made the movement feel. It feels great to move and jump and go fast, so when you try and put all of your movement capabilities to the test in a time trial puzzle, it'll also feel great to complete. When it comes to the bosses, it feels even better, as you get to scale these massive moving creatures to try and take them down. It's a similar concept to Shadow of the Colossus and the satisfaction one gets from defeating such a massive foe. If Shadow of the Colossus didn't have controls that make me want to break and reattach my fingers, of course. Look, I got it. Jet Set Radio and Shadow of the Colossus. New title idea, hear me out. Solar Set Radio of the Colossus, but our controls don't suck ass. Ash. Pretty good, right? You already get attention and bonus points since your controls are better than Shadow of the Colossus. This aside, the gameplay loop is fairly engaging, especially as you travel between each of the game's 6 main locations. Each not only have visual distinctions, but carry their own theming and introduce new gameplay mechanics. One of specific note is the spore mechanic that is first introduced in the Eternal Garden. The player, after hitting one of 3 colored spore buds, must quickly skate their way to a designated spot in which the spores must unlock a door or create a rail to grind on. It's fairly straightforward and of course nothing groundbreaking, but it's stuff like this that keeps gameplay feeling fresh. Now, although the gameplay is fantastic, I'd love to spend a good amount of time talking about the biggest element of this game in my eyes: its story. Hi, Editing Cross here. Before we get into the story of Solar Ash, did you know that over 60% of my viewers aren't subscribed to the channel? If you aren't subscribed and enjoy the content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell. I've been working really hard to try and get you all some bangers made every week, and I'd hate for you to miss the content when it's hot out of the oven. Heck, if you subscribe, I'll give you this cookie. Big yums. Alrighty, let's get back to the video. Despite all the attention they've given the gameplay, the story does not fall short here, and I personally really like it. I'll first be giving a general summary of the story for those who want to give the game a try, and then delve a bit further into all the details and themes. You play as Ray, a void runner who ventures into a massive unstable black hole called the Ultra Void to try and stop it from consuming her world. To do so, she needs to activate the Starseed, a massive piece of ancient technology that is believed to be able to dissipate black holes. To get the starseed back up and running, she has to skate through different locations within the Ultra Void, which are the remains of previous worlds destroyed by it, to remove anomalies interfering with Rey's AI assistant. Removing these anomalies involves defeating massive creatures called remnants, by scaling them and attacking its weak points. Alright, now I'm gonna start delving into spoilers for the game, so please skip to this timestamp or skip to Act 4 if you plan to play this game and don't want to be spoiled. Alright, now that the spoiler warning is out of the way, holy shit, I love this game. Heartmachine tells just enough story through just following along and focusing on the main story to allow for player satisfaction, but tells the story of what happened before Rey showed up through the side pieces of content. The side content includes optional quest lines from the few NPCs that you encounter, the reading of paper logs left behind in different areas, and void rendered caches that tell the stories of what happened to Rey's companions. Each NPC has their own separate unique quest line to help tell the story of what occurred to the world you are currently exploring. The main story itself withholds a lot of information from you, allowing the player to use context clues to try and figure out what's really happening in the Ultra Void. If you ignore all the void rendered caches, most of your clues will come from a large entity called Echo. Not much at all is known about who or what she is initially, but we learn more about her as time moves along. The game sets her up to appear like the main villain, as she not only talks in a very undermining tone to Rey, but also removes a shield canister every time the player encounters her. Rey herself even sees her as just another obstacle to her trying to complete her goal. Each time Rey winds up meeting with Echo, it is clearly obvious Echo is trying to stop Rey from activating the starseed by trying to dissuade her, and as mentioned before, even removes a shield canister from her to slow her down. Echo's reasoning comes to light once players begin to put these context clues together. At this point in the game, Rey's AI assistant says that it's too late to try and destroy the Ultra Void and save their planet, but the starseed had been recalibrated to try and rewind all of time by Pyat, one of Rey's Void Runner companions that had come before her. Rey, being desperate and stubborn, gets the starseed ready to give a shot at rewinding time. Once Rey reaches the summit of the starseed, she realizes that her world is already gone. Echo then returns, revealing that she is part of Rey, and that they have been stuck in a never-ending loop of failing to save their planet. The starseed doesn't reverse time, it just repeats it. This is when the player is given two choices: to activate the starseed and continue the cycle, or to end the cycle by destroying the starseed. Deactivating the starseed gives you the happy ending of the game, where Echo comes back to save Rey, who turns into a remnant and stabilizes the Ultra Void. On the other hand, activating the starseed continues the cycle, killing Echo and turning Rey into a remnant, and the cycle continues with Rey awakening at the beginning of the game as if nothing happened. Both endings in my eyes are good and satisfying in their own rights, but of course seeing the cycle end and the Ultra Void stable is a happy way for things to wrap up, with the characters all looking forward to the future. And although not doing the side content doesn't directly affect the ending of the game, making it all completely optional, it allows the player to get more context on some events and helps give hints and pieces to explain things to the player that they may not have seen or understood while playing. As mentioned before, Solar Ash is giving you pieces of information throughout the entirety of the game to allow you, the player, to figure the story out on your own. For example, when using the context clues in the dialogue between Rey and Echo, stating that the remnants she defeats appear familiar, and that Rey turns into a remnant upon reaching the endings, reveal that both her and the other Void Runners have become the remnant creatures that are roaming the Ultra Void. This is even further hinted at with each Void Runner cache, as they all end with some massive event, most likely the activation of the starseed, that winds up ending their lives. The remnants in the Black Sludge creatures are literally the remnants of the individuals from the previous cycle of Rey activating the starseed, including her past selves. This blew me the fuck away, as I didn't put these pieces together at all until the final scene. I felt it weird that Echo and Rey were mentioning this, but wrote it off as I felt the game would explain it later, but it never actually directly did. I was given the pieces to figure out what truly happened, and was allowed to put it together on my own. The game doesn't directly tell you what is happening. A player could play the entire game, skip the side content, and not learn about this if they aren't paying attention to the details, or skip this guy's content entirely. And to me, that's so cool. I love it when a game leaves room for the player to figure things out, rather than putting all the cards on the table and showing us their entire hand. Then there's the NPC side quests. These allow the player to see into the worlds these NPCs had before the Ultra Void swallowed it up. There's about 3 total NPCs that you get to interact with while playing the game. These include Nancy, a Veruki stuck hoping for her husband to return from war, Auric, a very skittish Umbra who wishes to keep following his passions, and Admiral Ames, a Cyclodorian space captain who's stuck in a mental cycle of hoping to save his planet. All three of these NPCs allow for some insight into Ray's character and the character she's becoming. Nancy, who we stated before, is stuck hoping for her husband to return from war, and she can't accept this fact, and that he's gone, which directly parallels Ray, who is searching for her Void Runner companions, not accepting the fact that they are gone, and that there's something she can do to fix everything. Completing Auric's side quest has you speaking with the Umbra Elders, who all talk about Ray and her very being, giving even more context clues as to what's happening in the Ultra Void and that the problem is within Ray herself. Then there's my favorite NPC side quest line, which comes around the time Ray learns that she can use a starseed to reverse time and forces her AI companion Sid, her only true friend at this point, to start making improbable calculations, causing her to be stuck in a loop and malfunction. Eventually, Ray encounters Admiral Ames, who believes Ray to be a new recruit to his army and sends her out to find the rest of his missing away teams, who have all ventured forth to find refugees from their now lost planet. As you explore the remains of this area, it quickly becomes apparent that each of the squadrons that were sent out are all already dead. He's able to muster up the strength to accept their deaths as you continue to look around, but the biggest moment that genuinely made me go silent for a bit occurred towards the end of the questline, and it all builds up this moment from the very beginning. Throughout the entirety of the questline, Admiral Ames continues to speak highly of their planet's leader, the First Citizen, who he hoped was able to save their people. I didn't expect much of it, but in retrospect maybe I should have. But that aside, I continued playing along. Eventually, while completing an anomaly, I found an underground cave in the middle of what appeared to be some capitol building based on a written log I read somewhere else. The cave held a large locked hatch, one surrounded by dead people who appeared to have been trying to get into it. Little did I know that at the end of the quest it'd come back in full force, as Admiral Ames stated that he found a reading of the hatch and that we should check it out. Upon returning, it was open, and it revealed that the hatch was a large safe where gold and riches were stored. I ventured further past more dead individuals to see Admiral Ames and another person dead in a chair. Upon talking to Admiral Ames, it's revealed that the First Citizen was the one dead in the chair, and Admiral Ames had been the one to kill him. It was in retaliation for killing the other guards, and it seemed to me while continuing to talk to him that he was starting to realize the truth and would come to. But then...
No. It's this place. It must have done this to me, to the First Citizen. This place corrupts everything. My people, all lost to this cursed void. No. I did everything I could for the Empire. I would send 1,000 more to their deaths if it meant I could save my kingdom.
This is no place to live. You should get out of here if you can.
Yes, save the Empire. That's what we must do. Tell Yeoman Rowe and Grimclaw to ready the away teams.
After he said this, it began to set in. How long has he known about this? How many times has he done this? He mentioned seeing this all in dreams before, which are all most likely the times the starseed had been activated. The away teams are all dead already, and so are the companions he mentioned earlier. He's not only stuck in denial, not only is he stuck in a loop, but he's a perfect parallel for the character that Ray is becoming, or technically already is. She has repeatedly acted in a selfish way of restarting this loop, with disregard for others. Her intentions are in the right place, but despite everything, she has continued it up to this point. Eventually, the player will get to the ending where they will choose to either continue the cycle or end it, and it genuinely was a very emotional beat for me, and I can safely say that this side quest helped build up that feeling. The only blemish on an otherwise perfect side quest is the comedic feel of how each away team died. They were all fairly stupid deaths. And have a listen to some of these logs.
Nea Squad Field Report. We found no sign of the First Citizen. Our scuttlecraft crash-landed due to unknown signal interference, and many of the crew are too injured to continue searching. Luckily, we landed near the healing hot springs of Oblantis. We can all soothe our wounds here. Yeoman Row claims their instrumentation has detected a slow and steady increase in the acidity levels. But the crew and I all agree it feels great, and I ordered Row to jump in with us.
Timothoa Squad, field report. We have crashed into the remains of a capsized ship. Our generators were damaged in the crash, and we are running low on power. The crew and I are going to climb up these damaged cables to get a better survey of the area. Climbing in the dark is a great way to get everyone killed. So I have sent Private Grimclaw to see if they can reactivate the ship's power drive.
Luckily, they weren't bad enough to ruin the overall experience the side quest gives. Heartmachine has a very specific style, and one can't help but notice traces of such style here in Solar Ash. The vibrant colors to the character and world design, to the soundtrack of the game itself, it all screams Heartmachine. It's a certain polish they have that I can absolutely appreciate from them. Locations were well made and visibly distinct. Cutscenes are choreographed, framed, and animated extremely well. The dialogue feels well written almost always, and impactful. And the game overall just looks great to fucking look at. The game even has different points where you can get a sweeping look of the landscape and be able to truly see the whole area. Heartmachine even made these areas truly feel like I'm trailing through the remains of fallen civilizations as well, with distinct styles of architecture and land variety. Solar Ash knows that it has these beautifully distinct locations and set pieces and runs with it. There were many times I'd even just take it all in or find my own spots that I felt showed off how great these places looked. I'll probably show a few while I'm talking about these, but I hope you can see where I'm coming from with this. My only issue with the areas themselves was that I wish that I could do a bit more in each one. Besides track down the Void Runner caches, you can finish an area very quickly, especially if you skip the side quests. I can understand why, as more content could bog down the overall experience Heartmachine was trying to create. Solar Ash has side quests and collectibles in the form of Void Runner caches, which provide new suits for Rei based on her companions. But the most important part about them is how they tell the stories of her companions. They all culminate to enhance the main story, which is the main experience of the game. It's obvious that this was intentional, and that in doing this, they wanted the player to become more invested in the main story as they tried to piece things together themselves. More side quests from other individuals mean more NPCs, making these areas feel less abandoned and remove that feeling of loneliness. If more side quests were given by the NPCs that currently existed, it would pull them away from their original purposes, which we talked about before. Other collectibles are of course a possibility, but Heartmachine would need to figure out what collectibles they would want to add that also enhance the main story, and personally I feel as though that would just turn the game into a bit of a collectathon and artificially pad out the game time. Solar Ash is a game with a specific story to tell, and every aspect of the game is there to enhance that story. I know we were just talking about the style of Solar Ash, and this may feel like this bit has no purpose here, but Solar Ash's style is the game's purpose, and how it accomplishes that. Every part of the game works hand in hand to not only make a fantastic experience for the player, but tell the story it was designed to tell. The game has its style, and it's a damn good one. Solar Ash is an amazing game, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's a fantastic game and an amazing story to get invested in. Heartmachine, in my opinion, had outdone themselves with it, and have a worthy title to add to their catalog of completed projects. My only true gripe with the game is the fact that it's only available in the Epic Games Store on PC as of recording this video. I'm not a huge fan of the Epic Games Store and some of its practices, but they are trying to improve it. If you are also not a fan of the Epic Games Launcher, if you download it for any reason at all, let it be Solar Ash, or just get the PlayStation version off the PSN store. If you enjoyed this video, please like and consider subscribing. If you are subscribed, turn on that notification bell to be notified whenever I upload. I plan on revisiting this game in a future video to discuss more about the game in a video essay, so I'd hate for you to miss that when it's finally done and out of the oven. I'd also love to hear your opinions on the game in the comments below. If you've played the game, or hell, if you plan to even go out and play it yourself. If you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, I have an Instagram and a Twitter that you can follow me on. I tend to make updates about videos and life over there, and sometimes spark discussions about different topics. And with that, my name is CrossVee, and hope to see you all next week. Peace.